Tsuyoshi Kikuchi was never destined to be the top star in All Japan. But for one night in Sendai, he was God, and I'm not exaggerating. That might sound like a wild claim if you haven't seen the match I'm talking about, and if you only have cursory knowledge of All Japan, you may never have even heard of Tsuyoshi Kikuchi before. But in this match, he rises far above his acclaimed peers, held aloft by maybe the hottest hometown crowd in wrestling history. In this episode of WrestleLore, I'm going to talk about this match, Tsuyoshi Kikuchi and Kenta Kobashi versus Furnas and Danny Kroffat for the All Asia Tag titles, and how a perennial undercard junior heavyweight delivered the performance of a lifetime and helped create one of the greatest matches in the history of Japanese wrestling. Furnas and Kroffat had begun teaming together on both men's first tour of All Japan in 1988, forming a regular tag team in 1989, and quickly claiming the All Asia Tag titles, All Japan's secondary tag titles, from Revolution's Samson Fuyuki and Toshiki Kawada. They would hold the belts on and off for the next 5 years for over 1,000 combined days. They are the reigning champions coming into this match, having held the titles for 300 days so far in this reign. They had already had many matches against both Kikuchi and Kobashi in the years prior, defeating them in the majority of occasions, but I think it's worth noting that their last two All Asia reigns had both been ended by Kobashi, teaming with the second Tiger Mask Mitsuharu Misawa and Johnny Ace respectively. Kobashi isn't the all-time great that you probably picture quite yet, but he's certainly on his way. After his legendary series of 6-man tag matches over the last 3 years, check out my Super Generation Army vs Surutugun video for more info. Kobashi has grown, from the plucky underdog that lost his first 63 singles matches into an established upper mid-card wrestler. He's still seen as a tier below Misawa and Kawada, but he's one of the most beloved babyfaces in all of Japan at this time. And despite being a few years younger than Kikuchi, he has found himself in a big brother role when tagging with him, making the save when the bullying of his junior teammate goes too far. Lastly, we have Kikuchi, one of the 5 original members of the Super Generation Army. He was a popular underdog and solid tag team wrestler, but this has translated to minimal success so far. He had failed in multiple challenges for Masanobu Fuchi's junior heavyweight title, and in several matches teaming with Kobashi in challenges for the All Asia Tag belts, and going into this match was still searching for his first championship. Both sides have some momentum going into this match for the tag titles, but the X factor here is the crowd. They are hugely supportive of Kobashi, but they are utterly devoted to Kikuchi. This match takes place in his hometown of Sendai, Miyagi, and unsurprisingly they are fully behind him. I cannot put into words just how hot this crowd is here. It has to be seen and heard to be believed. The Can-Am get a surprisingly favourable response from the crowd when they enter the ring, but Danny Kroffat decides to do something about that. A simple finger shake when the titles are handed over, firmly establishing his team as the antagonists here. I'm sure it will get boring me saying over and over how loud and how active this crowd is, but it's like nothing else I've ever seen. Kikuchi gets caught by Kroffat with the first big shot of the contest, and he has to walk it off. He comes back swinging though, and the crowd, roaring as his barrage sends Kroffat out of the ring, are loudly chanting for their hero. When Kobashi makes the tag, after Kikuchi and Kroffat end up in his corner, it really does feel like the big brother coming in to take care of business. Kobashi and Kroffat have a nice back and forth before Furnas gets the tag, a double shoulder tackle getting a 1 count. Furnas is firmly in control until he gets caught by Kobashi's dropkick. Kikuchi comes back in, and the crowd erupts as he delivers a 0-cent kick to each of the Can-Am. When Furnas returns, he opts to try and suck the energy out of both Kikuchi and the crowd, grinding him down with a headlock. When Kikuchi has a brief flurry and the crowd comes alive for him, Furnas uses his clear power advantage to put a stop to it. Kroffat tries to do the same, but Kikuchi manages to make the tag to Kobashi, who hits some explosive offense as the crowd roars. Kroffat's kicks briefly turn the tide, but Kobashi has a lariat of both Kroffat and Furnas, and a double dropkick from the Super Generation gets a 2 count. Kikuchi shows his pure babyface fire and heart as he tries to maintain control, but Furnas' strength is just too much for him, and he eats a nasty lariat when he charges. What follows is the real turning point in the match, the point at which the Can-Am takes full and dominant control. As is something of a tradition in his battles with the Can-Am, Kikuchi gets hoisted up by Furnas for a scary military press from the ring to the floor. While Kroffat controls Kobashi, Furnas lifts Kikuchi up again, and the hometown hero takes a nasty bump onto a table at ringside. Kobashi encourages him to make it back to the ring, but he's instantly grabbed by Furnas. The assisted clothesline is executed perfectly, but the referee's momentary distraction, while Kroffat mocks Kobashi, gives Kikuchi enough time to recover and kick out at 2, which the crowd laps up. Kroffat begins to grind down Kikuchi with a nasty Boston Crab, not giving him a second to recover when he eventually reaches the ropes, following up with a trilogy of vicious snap suplexes, though Kobashi interferes to break up the pin. While Kikuchi manages to land a backdrop suplex, he's unable to get to his corner, with Kroffat dragging him away and tagging Furnas back in. They continue to isolate and wear down Kikuchi, though the crowd remains fully behind him. Kobashi interferes to help his partner where he can, and the crowd loves it every time. Kikuchi manages to duck a wild lariat from Furnas, connecting with an elbow and zero-cent kick, before making the highly anticipated tag to Kobashi. He's an absolute house of fire as he takes out the Can-Am, the crowd exploding when he connects with a pair of lariats. He attempts the middle rope DDT, though Kroffat makes a save with a powerbomb, before a strong lariat from Furnas gets 2. Furnas sets up Kroffat for the splash, but Kobashi gets his knees up just in time. Kroffat tries to stop him making the tag, but he's unsuccessful, getting caught with an enziguri and a huge flying headbutt from Kikuchi for 2. Kikuchi's bridging fisherman likewise gets 2, but he gets drilled with a great looking super kick. Kobashi attempts to prevent Kroffat's Tiger Driver, but he's dispatched with a lariat and dumped over the top rope. Kroffat tries again for the Tiger Driver, but Kikuchi is able to block, which gets a great reaction in and of itself, before Kroffat signals for Furnas to enter. They connect to the Doomsday device, but the crowd erupts when Kikuchi shockingly kicks out at 2. The Can-Am are furious, getting into a heated argument with the referee, before Kroffat elbows Kobashi and Kikuchi is ragdolled with a nasty Cobra Clutch. It looks absolutely vicious as the hometown hero sells it, until Kobashi is able to briefly get the better of Furnas to break it up. Kroffat sets Kikuchi up for the suplex, at the same time as Kobashi lands a DDT on the floor to Furnas. He saves his partner, hoisting his opponent up in the electric chair and allowing Kikuchi to land a huge dropkick, before their assisted moonsault gets a very close 2 count. Kobashi gets tagged in, though Kroffat counters his shoulder tackle. He tags Furnas, who hits a huge Hurricane Rana, though Kikuchi's flying headbutt breaks up the pin before the referee has a chance to begin the count. Kobashi and Kroffat go back and forth, Kobashi winning the exchange of a power slam before setting up for the moonsault. Furnas intervenes, but Kikuchi manages to dispatch him to the outside. He gives Kroffat time to roll to the corner, and while he does get clipped, Kobashi takes the brunt of the damage. He kicks out of the prawn hold at 2, with the pair countering each other's pinning attempts before Kobashi nails a double arm DDT, at the same time Kikuchi suplexes Furnas on the floor. The DDT gets 2, and Kobashi sets up the moonsault once again. He connects perfectly, and when the referee makes the 3 count, the crowd explodes. I think this is an absolutely phenomenal match. It's textbook Southern style tag team wrestling, executed perfectly. Clearly defined babyfaces, with the crowd fully behind them, facing off against dominant foreign heels who isolate and beat down one of the faces for an extended stretch of the match. The work the Can-Am Express do here is excellent. I'm a big fan of the technician powerhouse tag team dynamic, and this pair work really well together in that regard, allowing them to control the match in 2 very different ways. Kroffat's style was geared towards quick offense and submissions to prevent their opponents from building any momentum, whereas Furnas uses big power moves that break through their core to keep them permanently on the back foot. Obviously the setting couldn't be more perfect for them to play vicious, domineering heels, but they are absolutely masterful nonetheless. Kroffat's insulting finger shake before the match begins is just so perfect. Despite the positive reception the Can-Am received when they made their way to the ring, he knows it will only take the tiniest of pushes to get the fans to turn on them completely, and with one simple gesture, he puts the crowd right where he needs them. They apply tremendous pressure when the match gets underway, keeping the faces grounded or on the defensive for much of it, but easing up when needed to create some electric moments of hope and glory. They cut off the Super Generation at the perfect times after these spots, forcing the crowd to constantly oscillate between hope and despair, their energy rising and falling over and over again until the crescendo. Kobashi is fantastic in this match too. Having watched him be the whipping boy for large portions of his 6-man tag matches with Tsuyoshi around this time, it's great to see him in the role of cleaner here. He's always been an emotive wrestler, and the anger and determination we see on his face while Kikuchi is being brutalised is clear and powerful, with the crowd always reacting well when he intervenes. When Kikuchi eventually manages to escape the Can-Am, the crowd reaction is tremendous. I think Kobashi's hot tags are absolutely world class. The passion and fire and spirit he brings is just terrific, and I'd put his hot tags up against Terry Funk or Robert Gibson's any day. As for Kikuchi, he can really do no wrong in this match. The way the crowd reacts to everything he does, whether it's his courageous moments of offense or his resilience under attack. The crowd here is an extension of Kikuchi. People talk about wrestlers being conductors, with the crowd as their orchestra. Kikuchi and the crowd here are one, a perpetual motion machine. His action rallies the fans behind him, who in turn continually push him forward, which rallies the fans behind him, and so on and so on. It's the perfect example of the unifying power of pro wrestling. The will of thousands concentrated on a single man, with breathtaking results. The middle segment of the match, in which the Can-Am firmly established control, is just terrific. Kroffat and Furnas present a remarkably different style of Gaijin heel here, compared to what was traditionally offered by Westerners in all Japan. They aren't your rough and ready brawlers like Hansen, Abdullah or Brody. They're much more methodical, much cleaner, professional and athletic, but still condescending. Danny Kroffat has such fantastic heel facials here, portraying pure smugness so well. Along with the intense power of Furnas, it's a perfect combination. Unlike the wild men who came before them, the Can-Am Express represent a different breed of foreign invader, one whose arrogance comes from excellence rather than chaos. They don't rely on swinging chairs or wild brawls to assert dominance, they simply wrestle better. That professionalism is its own form of cruelty. Every hold is crisp, every double team is seamless. It's inherently insulting to watch two outsiders dismantle your hometown hero with such ease, and it burns even worse after Kobashi and Kikuchi get off to such a hot start, as if the beginning of the match was a fluke, and the pair just aren't good enough to get the job done. They stretch Kikuchi to his breaking point, cutting off every glimmer of hope with surgical precision, and Furnas punctuates it with brute force power, slamming home the idea that no amount of spirit can overcome sheer strength. Every second they keep Kikuchi down is another turn of the screw, priming the audience for the volcanic eruption that comes when Kobashi finally re-enters the fray. From then on, it's a frantic, desperate sprint by both teams to pick up the win and escape with the titles. They throw everything they have at each other, swinging for the fences with all the biggest moves they have, leading to some shocking kickouts, like Kikuchi surviving the Doomsday device, that the crowd just explodes for. The Can-Am milk that moment for everything they can, looking stunned and distraught, shoving the referee and becoming increasingly desperate. Kroffat grits his teeth to hide his anger somewhat as he ragdolls Kikuchi, and the crowd is apoplectic and the Super Generation turn the tables with a Doomsday of their own, and Danny kicks out. When Kobashi still connects with the moonsault despite Kroffat rolling inward, his great selling makes you really believe that in spite of how it looked, Kobashi may have in fact gotten the worst of it. He's just so committed, and manages to keep you immersed in a situation in which many other wrestlers would not have had the same success. The little sequence preceding Kobashi's DDT is gorgeous, and seeing the crowd all on their feet as Kobashi's stunning moonsault connects for the victory is just transcendent wrestling. I've seen multiple people describe this as a 4-star match with a 5-star crowd. While I do understand the point they're trying to make, I think this interpretation points to a fundamental misunderstanding about what a wrestling match is. It implies that one can divorce the action in the ring from the reaction of the crowd, which I don't think is possible. I might have talked about this in a previous video, so sorry if I'm repeating myself here, but I find this sort of thing interesting, and in this case, it's something I think can be quite easily disproved. Entertain a little thought experiment for me for a minute. Take any great match, and imagine it performed spot for spot in front of a quiet, disinterested crowd. Same timing, same execution, same pacing. Would you still be emotionally invested in it? My guess is probably not. A match is not just the action in the ring. If it were, you could learn an acclaimed match off by heart and get the same reaction every time. Wrestling is incredibly unique in the way that it's consumed as both live and recorded media. It happens in a specific place, in front of a specific crowd, at a specific moment in time. But as time passes, wrestling lives on tape, being revisited and reviewed and rediscovered years, often decades after it took place. People see matches much later, with less context, but can still feel the enthusiasm and passion of the crowd, feeling that same energy long after the match itself is over. Of course, there are matches with limited or in some cases no crowd participation or reaction that are still great, but I think that's because they lean into the unique opportunities afforded by lack of fans. To wrestle a standard wrestling match, just without any fans, and have it be entertaining, or at least as entertaining as it would be with a crowd, is incredibly difficult. That's why I think so few great matches took place during the pandemic, and why those that did were so radically different. If we're being honest, how many great matches do you remember from the Thunderdome, Daily's Place, clap crowd era? How many have you gone back and re-watched? I'd wager very few, and the ones that you have re-watched, I bet the majority would be of the stadium stampede variety. Aside from a few unique exceptions, I think wrestling fundamentally needs to be in front of a crowd. It needs that interaction, that back and forth, that push and pull, otherwise there's just something missing. That's why I think when people try to separate the match from the crowd, to suggest that the action in the ring can be rated independently of the atmosphere surrounding it, I think they miss what makes wrestling special. The performance and the reaction are entangled. You can never fully pull them apart, not in the moment and not in hindsight either. This is not a good match of a great crowd. This is a great match, full stop. These four men play the crowd perfectly, giving them what they wanted and taking it away. Giving and taking over and over again. Then taking and taking and taking until the crowd had nothing left to give, before giving back to them everything they wanted and more. Obviously the crowd being so behind the babyfaces helps, but to take a crowd like this and guide them, channel them perfectly into the story of the match, it's an absolute masterclass. The way Furnas and Kroffat get the crowd to turn on them completely before the bell rings is so simple and so elegant, and every cut-off is perfectly measured to get the ideal response. Kobashi and Kikuchi bring so much fire with every hot tag, and both men are phenomenally endearing. Is this the greatest match of all time? I think it's arguable, but I also think it's kind of a boring and almost irrelevant question. I think a more interesting question is this: is it a perfect match? This is something for a different video, as I think there's an important distinction to be made between the greatest match and a perfect match. For me, this is absolutely a perfect match. Every element that makes a great match is here. The wrestlers involved play their roles to perfection, the action is flawless, and the fans are completely enthralled, willing on Kobashi and Kikuchi with incredible fervour. It's not my favourite wrestling match, but I legitimately cannot find a single fault in it. It is exquisite pro wrestling, a perfect storm that I think all wrestling should chase. It's an ideal match to introduce new fans to the sport, requiring minimal context to understand, and having an emotional resonance that even those who've never seen a wrestling match before can appreciate and enjoy. As I said at the beginning of this video, Kikuchi delivers the performance of a lifetime here. Obviously the hometown crowd is working in his favour, but how many hometown crowds can you think of that are as consistently hot for a wrestler as the 5,000 fans here in Sendai? He took this hot crowd and kept them hot the entire match. That was down to him, to his powerful babyface fire and captivating underdog spirit. It feels almost dismissive to condense a 30+ year career to a single match, but when the match is this powerful and this emotional, it's hard not to. He'll be a reliable hand in All Japan for the rest of the decade, claiming the elusive junior title from Fuchi in 1996 before being part of the Noah Exodus in 2000. He'd find himself in much the same spot in Noah as he did in All Japan, mostly relegated to the undercard, though he would claim the IWGP Junior Tag titles for a 4-month reign in 2002, which is nothing to sneeze at. He'd end up wrestling as a freelancer from 2010 onwards, competing for every major promotion in Japan. Not bad for a perennial mid-carder. While he would never again reach the heights he did here, he got to compete in the sort of legendary match that most wrestlers never come close to finding themselves in. It's one hell of a legacy to leave behind. His finest hour being a perfect match, one that will be admired and revered for decades to come. I highly recommend you watch this match if you haven't already, and even if you have, if you find yourself with a spare half hour, quit doom scrolling on your phone and go and give it a watch. It's a perfect match to reinvigorate one's love of professional wrestling, and a perfect match to show someone who's not quite sure what to think about all this wrestling nonsense. Thank you so much for watching this episode of WrestleLore. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like it in the future. We're sticking with great tag team wrestling in the next episode, as I'm going to be talking about what I believe is the greatest trilogy in modern tag team wrestling, FTR against the Briscoes. Be sure to follow me on Twitter for updates, and once again, thank you for watching. Cheers.